Back with Jamie McLennan now to talk about Leafs goaltending. I want to pick up a conversation we had a couple of weeks ago about who you'd go with to start the playoffs. 12 games to go. Joseph Woll or Anthony Stolarz? Who would it be now for you, game one?
It's still Anthony Stolarz for me based on experience and age. And what I mean by that is he's the older goaltender. Now, he watched his goaltender partner go to the Stanley Cup final and win last year. I mean, he won a Stanley Cup as well, but it was from the sideline. So he's been through that experience of going deep into the playoffs. I would give him the start, but with a short leash, because Joseph Woll has been terrific recently, but it's still Anthony Stolarz. He's only had one appearance in the playoffs as well. It's in relief duty of Bobrovsky, but I still think he's had a more consistent season. He's a veteran guy. Give him the start and have Joseph Woll waiting in the wings if there's a falter.
Kind of a 1 and 1A situation compared to really a 1 and a clear number 2. And with that in mind, I mean, projected starts, Woll would be about 42 for the season. Projected Stolarz would be 31, and he missed some time with injury. So much the same. Should Craig Berube consider a platoon arrangement in the playoffs?
Well, we saw it with the Boston Bruins, and I mean, it was back and forth until it wasn't, until Jeremy Swayman took over. You could have that mindset, but it's the old saying, if you have two number ones, you actually don't have a number one, because you will always be second guessing. Because if a guy, I'll give you an example. Say you go deep in a game and go into double overtime, but you lose 1-0. Do you come back with that goaltender, or do you go with the other guy because he lost? That's the biggest challenge. When you have a clear-cut number one, like most organizations will heading into the playoffs, if you've got a platoon situation, it's a balancing act, because you're always looking after a loss going, should I go to the other guy or give the starting goaltender another opportunity?
Okay, now let's look at how they would stack up in goal against the most likely playoff opponents they would have, either Tampa Bay or Florida, or perhaps the Ottawa Senators as well. Are the Leafs at a disadvantage against any of those teams in goal?
They're second on paper, but that means nothing until you go out and do that. And what I mean by that is, yes, there's Bobrovsky, yes, there's Vasilevsky. Both of them are well decorated deep into the playoffs with Stanley Cups. Linus Ullmark has playoff wins, playoff starts, but he hasn't gone deep into the playoffs and been a starter per se. So I would say on paper, you give the advantage to those three teams you talked about, but show me what you can do in this playoff, because when you look at it, Joseph Woll has 4 starts in the playoffs. Anthony Stolarz is tied with you for starts right now. I even have 1. But giving him an opportunity, you never know what they can do. So on paper, they're at a disadvantage until they prove us otherwise.
Yeah, so for what it's worth, just listening to what you said there, as it stands, the Leafs ranked tied for 16th only in goals against average. The Sens, the Panthers, and the Lightning all ranking much higher. For what it's worth. Different animal come playoff time.